David is a New York State Notary Public at a commercial bank, responsible for notarizing documents related to high-value loans. One day, a client presents a document for notarization, but only offers a utility bill and a company ID card without a photograph as proof of identity. Knowing that satisfactory identity evidence is essential to prevent fraud, what should David do? To help us answer this question, let's have a look at section 182.5 found in your Notary Public License Law booklet entitled Satisfactory Evidence of Identity. And it states here that one method of satisfactory identity verification is through presentation of the back and front of an identification card issued by a governmental agency, provided the card is valid and current, contains the photographic image of the bearer, etc. So with this in mind, let's have a look at the four choices to determine our solution. Choice A states, accept the utility bill and company ID since two documents were presented, which is sufficient evidence of identity. Well, this is incorrect. As I just read from the law before, the ID actually has to be issued by a government, not a company ID. And in any event, it has to contain a photographic image. Neither the utility bill or the company ID contains a photographic image. And therefore, regardless of how many of those types of documents are presented, if it doesn't contain the requirements as fixed by the law that I just read from, it would not be acceptable as a means of identification, and therefore choice A is not the correct solution. Choice B states, request additional identification such as a government-issued photo ID to satisfy New York's identity verification requirements. Now this seems to align with the law that I read from before, but before we mark it as the correct solution, let's have a look at choices C and D just to be sure. Choice C states, proceed with the notarization, but note in his journal that only non-photographic IDs were provided. Well, this is incorrect because the IDs presented were not in accordance with the law, and making a note in his journal would not alleviate that concern. And that means that without proper ID, David could not have proceeded with the notarization. So choice C is not the correct solution. And finally, choice D states, refuse to notarize the document under any circumstances due to lack of acceptable identification. Now, this is incorrect because it's too far-reaching. As we see from choice B that I read from before, David can ask for additional identification that does meet the requirements of the law, and simply refusing outright to notarize when there's an alternative solution available would be too far-reaching, as I said, and therefore choice D is not the correct solution, which indeed leaves choice B, request additional identification such as a government-issued photo ID to satisfy New York's identity verification requirements as the correct solution.